Imagine this. You're walking down a bustling street, focused and unmoving like a stalwart oak amidst the chaos and excitement. From nowhere, a passerby collides with you, knocking your drink out of your hand. You feel a surge of anger, your heart rate spikes, and a snappy retort springs to your lips. But then, you take a deep breath. You master that emotion swelling within you. Rather than reacting impulsively, you critically examine your feelings. Was it really the passerby's fault? Or was it the crowded street? Perhaps they were rushing to an emergency. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, the mastery of emotions, acknowledging, critically examining, and managing them effectively rather than acting on them impulsively or irrationally. Now, let's look at this incident from another perspective. Suppose this person was a colleague or a friend, and this wasn't the first time they'd been careless or thoughtless. Do you forgive them, let it go, and move on? Or do you distance yourself, take a step back from them? In Stoicism and in life, there's a critical distinction to be made here, that between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness, you see, is an internal process, a personal choice. It's you deciding not to let someone else's actions hold power over you. It's you choosing to free yourself from the burden of resentment. But reconciliation? Now, that's an external process. That's you deciding whether to continue to engage with that person. Should you give them a second chance? Should you trust them again? Those are hard questions, and the answers aren't always clear-cut. The nature of the offense, the potential for positive change, your personal boundaries, all these factors come into play. Stoicism encourages us not to act on raw emotion, but to look at these factors logically, objectively, and make the best decision for our peace of mind. In the great and complex theater of life, we often encounter people and situations that test our resolve, that challenge our values and standards. Imagine standing on a stage, the spotlight glaring down on you. In the audience, there's dissent, there's criticism. Do you alter your performance, change your script to please the crowd? Or do you stay true to your character, your script, your values? Stoicism teaches us to uphold our values and standards, even in the face of adversity or potential conflict. It's about setting firm boundaries, demonstrating courage and resilience, and not compromising on who we are or what we believe in. And it's not just about being steadfast and stubborn. It's also about seeking feedback, reflecting on our actions, and making informed decisions. We all have that one person in our lives, someone we care about, someone we wish would change. We hope they'll become more considerate, more responsible, or more understanding. But Stoicism offers a different perspective. It teaches us not to expect others to change. It reminds us that change should be self-motivated, that we can't control other people or their actions, only our own reactions to them. Imagine a sphere around you. Everything within that sphere is under your control, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. Everything outside it, including other people's actions and attitudes, is not. Stoicism encourages us to focus on that sphere of control, to set clear boundaries, and to accept people as they are, rather than wishing they were different. Remember, we are not defined by the actions of others, but by our response to them. We have the power to choose, and that's one of the greatest powers we possess. Let's dive deeper into this concept of boundaries. We've talked about setting them, maintaining them, but how do you actually do that? And what happens when those boundaries are tested or violated? It's not easy to say no, is it? It's even harder to say it to someone you care about, someone you don't want to hurt or disappoint. But sometimes, saying no is necessary, for your peace of mind, for your well-being, for upholding your values and standards. When we hesitate to say no, it's often because of a deep-seated fear. Maybe it's a fear of rejection, a fear of being disliked, a fear of conflict. Stoicism teaches us to confront these fears head-on, to understand them, and most importantly, to overcome them. Now, overcoming fear doesn't mean eliminating it. It means not letting it control you. It means standing firm in the face of it. It means mastering your emotions, practicing self-discipline, and developing clear communication skills. Saying no isn't about being rude or inconsiderate. It's about being assertive, about expressing your needs and setting your boundaries. It's about respect, respect for yourself and respect for the other person. After all, honest communication is a cornerstone of any healthy relationship. When we learn to say no when necessary, we send a clear message that we value ourselves, that we have standards, that we won't tolerate being treated less than we deserve. And in doing so, we also set a precedent for others, showing them how to treat us with respect. Remember, saying no doesn't mean closing doors. It simply means setting the terms for engagement, defining the boundaries of our personal space, time, and energy. It's about creating a balance between the needs of others and our own needs. Just as we learn from our successes, we also learn from our past experiences, our mistakes, our failures. Each experience, each interaction is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to better ourselves. But learning isn't just about acknowledging our mistakes. It's about recognizing patterns, consciously choosing to break negative cycles, and aligning our actions with our evolving values and goals. With each experience, we gain more knowledge, more wisdom, more insight into ourselves and others. We learn more about our strengths, our weaknesses, our triggers. We learn more about what we can endure, what we can overcome, and what we truly value. And sometimes, we learn that a situation, a relationship, is no longer serving us, is no longer aligning with our values or contributing to our growth. And when that happens, we have the power, the freedom, to choose a different path, to create a better future for ourselves. This is where the mastery over impulses comes into play. You see, our impulses, our instincts, they can be powerful, compelling. They can be enticing, seductive. They can pull us in directions we don't want to go, make us say or do things we later regret. But Stoicism teaches us that we don't have to be enslaved by our impulses. We can learn to control them rather than them controlling us. We can cultivate self-awareness, practice self-discipline, demonstrate emotional resilience, and develop mindfulness. It's not about suppressing our instincts or emotions. It's about understanding them, managing them. It's about making conscious, informed decisions, rather than reacting impulsively. It's about being in control of our actions, our reactions, our life. And it's also about embracing our humanity, our imperfections. After all, we are not perfect, and that's okay. What matters is that we strive to be better, that we learn from our experiences, that we uphold our values, and that we respect ourselves and others. Remember, we are not just products of our past, we are architects of our future. We have the power to choose, to change, to grow. And that is the beauty, the promise, and the challenge of being human. In the journey of life, we often come across situations where we are wronged, hurt, or disappointed by those around us. How we respond in these situations is crucial not just for our emotional well-being, but also for our personal growth. Stoicism encourages us to approach these situations with a mindset of understanding and forgiveness. But forgiveness here isn't about forgetting or excusing the wrongdoing. It is an internal process, a conscious decision we make, to let go of resentment and anger, to free ourselves from the shackles of past hurt. This isn't easy. It requires immense strength and courage to forgive. It requires an understanding of one's emotions, a critical examination of them, and the development of strategies to manage them. But once we do this, we open the doors to inner peace and emotional freedom. However, forgiveness does not necessarily lead to reconciliation. While forgiveness is an internal process, reconciliation is an external one. It involves rebuilding a broken relationship, and this requires effort from both parties involved. Before deciding on reconciliation, it is important to consider the nature of the offense. Was it a one-time mistake, a lapse in judgment, or is it part of a larger pattern of behavior? Is the person showing genuine remorse and willingness to change, or are they just offering empty promises? The decision should also be based on whether the person respects your boundaries and values. If they continue to disrespect them, reconciliation might not be the best course of action. Remember, maintaining your personal standards in the face of potential conflict isn't just about self-respect. It's also about self-preservation. As we navigate these situations, it is important to remember that we cannot control the actions or attitudes of others. Expecting them to change according to our wishes is not only futile but can also lead to unnecessary stress and frustration. People change when they want to change, when they see the need for it. And even then, change is a process. It takes time, patience, and consistency. Just as we should respect others' journey of change, we should also respect our own. In this, we must remember the importance of setting boundaries and saying no. It's okay to stand up for yourself, to stand up for what you believe in. It's okay to not accept less than you deserve. Saying no isn't about being selfish or rude. It's about acknowledging your self-worth, your needs, and your limits. It's about recognizing that your feelings are valid and that you have every right to express them. It's about maintaining your integrity, even when it's inconvenient. Just as it's important to say no, it's also important to learn from the past. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But the key is not to dwell on these mistakes, but to learn from them, to grow from them. Recognize the patterns in your past, the decisions that led to undesired outcomes, the behaviors that didn't serve you well. Use these insights to make informed decisions in the present, decisions that align with your values and goals, decisions that lead to the future you aspire to build. As we do this, we must also strive for mastery over our impulses. Our emotions are powerful. They can sway us in ways we may not anticipate. But we must not let them enslave us. Cultivate self-awareness, practice self-discipline, develop mindfulness. Recognize your triggers, understand what causes your emotional reactions, and develop strategies to manage them effectively. At the end of the day, it's not about achieving perfection, but progress. It's about being better than we were yesterday, about being the best version of ourselves. It's about embracing our humanity, our imperfections, and yet striving for excellence in all that we do. And in this journey, Stoicism can be our guide, our compass, illuminating our path towards emotional resilience and personal growth. In this journey, it becomes incredibly crucial to pay attention to our personal values and standards. We all have a mental compass, a set of ethical principles that guide us in life. These values determine the choices we make, the company we keep, and the way we respond to situations. They are the pillars of our character, the foundation on which we build our lives. Standing firm on these principles, especially in the face of adversity or potential conflict, is not always easy. It's often easier to conform, to bow down to pressure, or to compromise on our values in order to keep the peace. But the Stoic philosophy teaches us that doing what is convenient should never come at the cost of doing what is right. There are times when upholding our values may lead to disagreements or confrontations. It may feel uncomfortable, even scary. But it is in these moments of discomfort that we grow, that we learn to be courageous and resilient. It is in these moments that we come to understand what we truly stand for. And as we stand firm on our principles, we must not forget to set healthy boundaries. Just as we respect others' boundaries, we must expect ours to be respected too. Boundaries are not just about keeping others out, they are about taking care of ourselves. They reflect our self-worth, our respect for our own needs and feelings. But setting boundaries isn't enough. We must also communicate them clearly and assertively. We must let others know what we are okay with and what we are not. This does not mean being rude or aggressive. It simply means standing up for ourselves, our values, and our mental and emotional well-being. While we strive to uphold our values and set boundaries, we must also seek feedback from trusted individuals. This does not mean we should let others dictate our lives or our choices. It simply means being open to different perspectives, to constructive criticism, and to new ways of thinking. It is through this openness that we learn, grow, and become more understanding and empathetic. Having said that, It's also important to remember that everybody is on their own journey, with their own struggles, their own values, and their own pace of growth. We cannot expect others to change according to our wishes or timetable. Change should be self-motivated, not imposed. This acceptance does not mean we condone bad behavior or let people walk all over us. It simply means we understand that people are a product of their experiences, their conditioning, and their understanding. And while we cannot control their actions or attitudes, we can control our response to them. This understanding can help us focus on our own sphere of control and set clear boundaries. It can help us decide who we want in our lives and how we want to be treated. It can help us make informed decisions on whether or not to give someone a second chance. In all of this, the importance of saying no cannot be overstated. Saying no is not just about refusing something we don't want. It is also about asserting our boundaries, our needs, and our rights. It is about respecting our values, our time, and our energy. But saying no can be difficult. Most of us have been conditioned to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, or to put others' needs before our own. We may fear rejection, disappointment, or confrontation. But it's important to remember that it's okay to prioritize our own needs and well-being. It's okay to say no when something doesn't align with our values, goals, or comfort. As we embrace this practice, we must also strive to learn from our past experiences. The past, if reflected upon with openness and honesty, can offer invaluable lessons. It can help us identify patterns, understand our triggers, and make better decisions. It can help us break negative cycles and align our actions with our evolving values and goals. And finally, we must strive for mastery over our impulses. Our emotions and desires are a natural part of being human, but they should not control us. We should not act on every whim or react to every provocation. Instead, we should develop self-discipline, emotional resilience, and mindfulness. By doing so, we become the masters of our own lives. We learn to respond rather than react, to choose rather than be chosen for, to act rather than be acted upon. And in this mastery lies our freedom, our peace, and our power. It is this mastery that leads to a life of fulfillment and meaning, a life guided by wisdom and virtue, a life worthy of respect and admiration. It is this mastery that the Stoics strived for, and it is this mastery that we too should strive for. Acceptance is a powerful principle in Stoicism, particularly the acceptance of people as they are, rather than expecting them to change. The serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This, in essence, is the radical acceptance the Stoics preached. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation or passivity. It does not mean we tolerate harmful behavior or let people treat us unjustly. Rather, it's about understanding that everyone is on their own unique journey, guided by their individual perspective, conditioning, and experiences. It means recognizing that we don't have control over others' behaviors, attitudes, or growth. We often carry expectations about how other people should behave or change. We create ideal versions of them in our minds and then get frustrated when they fail to live up to these ideals. But these expectations can be a trap, a source of unnecessary stress and conflict. It's worth remembering that the only person we have the power to change is ourselves. So, rather than focusing on changing others, let's focus on changing our responses to them. In this process, boundaries can be our best allies. Just as we respect others' space, we must demand respect for ours. This is especially true when dealing with difficult people or situations. Clear, assertive, and respectful communication about our boundaries can prevent misunderstandings, ensure mutual respect, and establish healthier relationships. But setting boundaries isn't the only thing we can do. We also have the power to decide whether we want to give someone a second chance or not. This isn't a decision to be taken lightly or impulsively. It requires careful thought, introspection, and discernment. One crucial factor in this decision-making process is the nature of the offense. Was it a one-time mistake, a result of ignorance or misunderstanding? Or was it a repeated pattern of harmful behavior? It's also worth considering the person's willingness to acknowledge their mistake, take responsibility, and make amends. Have they shown genuine remorse and a commitment to change? Or are they simply making empty promises to avoid the consequences of their actions? This is where the distinction between forgiveness and reconciliation comes in. Forgiveness is an internal process, a conscious decision to let go of resentment and anger towards someone who has harmed us. It's a gift we give ourselves, a way to free ourselves from the chains of bitterness and hurt. Reconciliation, on the other hand, is an external process. It involves rebuilding trust and re-establishing a relationship with the person who hurt us. While forgiveness is always possible and beneficial, reconciliation is not always desirable or safe. It depends on the nature of the offense, the person's willingness to change, and our own emotional well-being. It's also important to guard against the impulse to say yes when we really mean no. This often stems from a fear of conflict, rejection, or displeasing others. But every time we say yes when we want to say no, we dishonor ourselves. We undermine our values, our boundaries, and our self-respect. Saying no is not about being selfish or unkind. It's about honoring our needs, our values, and our limitations. It's about creating space for what truly matters to us, our peace, our joy, our growth. It's a sign of self-respect and self-care, a practice that can lead to greater emotional health and well-being. And as we navigate these difficult decisions and interactions, we must not forget the lessons of the past. Our past experiences, if reflected upon with openness and honesty, can offer invaluable insights. They can help us recognize patterns, understand our triggers, and make more informed decisions. They can help us break the cycle of hurt and create healthier, more fulfilling relationships. In all of this, mastery over our impulses is key. Our emotions and desires are a part of us, but they should not control us. We should not be enslaved by our anger, our fear, our desire for approval. Instead, we should strive to cultivate self-discipline, emotional resilience, and mindfulness. We should strive to respond, not react. To act, not be acted upon. To choose, not be chosen for. This is the path of Stoicism, a path that leads not just to peace and freedom, but also to wisdom, virtue, and fulfillment. A path that empowers us to live our lives with integrity, courage, and serenity, regardless of the people or situations we encounter. A path that encourages us to embrace our power, honor our values, and uphold our dignity. And it is this path that we are invited to walk every single day. The embodiment of this path of Stoicism also involves the courage to say no, whether it be to others or to ourselves. The Stoics believed that the supreme virtue is to live according to nature, which involves understanding our own individual nature, our capacities, our limits, and our deepest needs and values. It's about acknowledging our inherent worth and not being afraid to affirm it in our interactions with others. Saying no does not mean being unkind or disrespectful. Rather, it's about recognizing that we cannot be everything to everyone. It's about understanding that trying to please everyone is a surefire way to please no one, least of all ourselves. It's about realizing that every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. But saying no can be challenging, as we often fear the potential consequences. We might fear rejection, conflict, or the judgment of others. We might worry about hurting or disappointing people. But it's important to understand that these fears reflect our own insecurities and self-doubts, not our true worth or capability. So how do we overcome these fears and learn to say no? The first step is self-awareness. We need to identify our fears and understand their roots. Are they based on past experiences, societal pressures, or distorted beliefs about ourselves? Once we understand our fears, we can begin to challenge them and replace them with healthier, more empowering beliefs. The second step is self-discipline. Saying no requires strength and courage. It requires the ability to resist our own impulses and the influence of others. It requires the fortitude to stand by our values and priorities, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. This is where the teachings of Stoicism can be particularly helpful, as they advocate for self-control, rationality, and resilience in the face of adversity. The third step is effective communication. Saying no isn't about being negative or confrontational. It's about expressing our needs and boundaries in a clear, respectful, and assertive manner. It's about affirming our value and standing our ground without resorting to aggression or passivity. This requires empathy, tact, and assertiveness, skills that can be developed with practice and patience. As we cultivate the ability to say no, we also learn to make better decisions about who and what we allow into our lives. We learn to discern the people who respect and appreciate us from those who don't. We learn to distinguish the situations that nurture and empower us from those that drain and devalue us. We learn to choose our relationships, our commitments, and our environments more wisely and authentically. This discernment allows us to determine whether we should forgive and reconcile with someone who has wronged us. It helps us assess whether they deserve a second chance, whether they are capable of change, and whether a future relationship with them would be healthy and beneficial for us. But this isn't just about them. It's also about us. It's about recognizing and honoring our own growth, our own healing, and our own journey. It's about understanding that we deserve respect, kindness, and honesty, and not settling for less. It's about affirming our worth and upholding our values, no matter what others may say or do. This is the power of saying no. This is the courage of asserting our boundaries and standing by our values. This is the wisdom of Stoicism, a wisdom that teaches us not just to survive, but to thrive in the face of adversity. A wisdom that empowers us to live with integrity, dignity, and grace, regardless of the people or situations we encounter. A wisdom that invites us to step into our power, honor our truth, and create a life that truly reflects who we are. In this journey, it's important to remember that our past experiences serve as valuable lessons. They offer insights about ourselves, others, and life. These lessons are like a compass that guides our decisions and actions, helping us avoid repeating the same mistakes and make informed, wise choices. Recognizing patterns is the first step to learning from the past. Look back at your experiences and identify recurring themes or behaviors. Do you often find yourself giving second chances to people who repeatedly disappoint you, or do you shut people out at the first sign of conflict? Once we recognize these patterns, we can analyze them without judgment, seeking to understand their roots and implications. Next, we consciously choose to break these negative cycles. This involves making different decisions, taking different actions, and cultivating different attitudes. It means standing by our boundaries, even when it's difficult. It means forgiving, but not necessarily reconciling. It means being brave enough to say no, even when it's easier to say yes. It means not expecting others to change, but changing our own responses instead. Aligning our actions with our evolving values and goals is the final step. As we grow and evolve, so do our values and goals. What we tolerated or desired in the past may no longer serve us in the present. So, we need to continuously reassess our values and goals, ensuring that they reflect who we are now, not who we were then. The mastery over impulses is another key teaching of Stoicism. It teaches us to exercise self-control and not be enslaved by our impulses. The goal is not to suppress or deny our emotions, but to manage them effectively. It's about being able to respond rather than react, to be deliberate rather than impulsive, to be mindful rather than mindless. Cultivating self-awareness is the cornerstone of mastering our impulses. By observing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, we can identify our triggers and understand our emotional responses. This heightened self-awareness can help us manage our emotions rather than be controlled by them. Practicing self-discipline is an essential aspect of this mastery. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of discipline in managing our emotions and impulses. It's about developing the ability to delay gratification, resist temptation, and stay focused on our goals, despite the distractions and challenges that may arise. Developing emotional resilience is another critical factor. Life is full of ups and downs, successes and failures, joys and sorrows. By developing emotional resilience, we can navigate these fluctuations with grace and equanimity, maintaining our inner peace and balance, regardless of external circumstances. Finally, developing mindfulness can help us gain mastery over our impulses. Mindfulness is about being present in the moment, fully engaged in the here and now, without judgment or distraction. It's about observing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they arise, without getting caught up in them. This enables us to respond to situations with clarity, calmness, and wisdom, rather than react impulsively or habitually. In conclusion, the teachings of Stoicism provide valuable guidance on how to handle difficult people and situations, make informed decisions, and live a life of integrity, dignity, and resilience. It's not about being emotionless or indifferent. It's about being emotionally intelligent, rational, and self-disciplined. It's about standing by our values, honoring our boundaries, and asserting our worth. It's about learning from the past, mastering our impulses, and creating a future that truly reflects who we are. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more content on Stoicism and personal growth. Remember, the journey of personal growth and self-mastery is a lifelong journey, but every step brings us closer to becoming the best version of ourselves. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for excellence.